This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human being. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Anyway, great to have you on. Let's start again. I'm live with E. Michael Jones. Mike is a public speaker. He's the editor of Culture Wars magazine. He is also the author of The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, Barren Metal, and Is Notre Dame Still Catholic, among other things. And you're very prolific on social media at the minute, as well as mainstream media, things like Press TV. You've been on RT before as well. So great to have you on as ever, Mike. How's things?
Thank you. I just doing fine here. I just got back from 2 weeks in Kenya.
And how'd that go?
Went very well. I gave the keynote address at a conference at Catholic University of Eastern Africa. And then we were able to travel to Western Kenya, where I stayed on a shamba, which is their Swahili word for farm. I stayed there for about a little over a week, about 10 days. So it was the first time I've ever lived where the people live in Africa, down at the basic farm level life that they have there in Western Kenya. It's very beautiful there. It's green. Nairobi was still dry, it was still hot, but when we got to Western Kenya, the rainy season has started, everything's green, it's like one big golf course there. So it was a great experience.
I actually noticed that in our last interview, you had disabled features on that video, you had restrictions on it. It was kind of ironic because I avoided such restrictions on that particular video on my site or my YouTube channel. Because at the end of last year, I had a spate of videos, that were received the same treatment, and maybe half a dozen on the bounce, just like, succession of videos with, restrictions, can't share, can't like, can't leave comments, interviews I did, with people like Jeff Gates discussing Israel's control of U.S. foreign policy, Andrew Joyce about the Jewish rule in immigration, Kevin McDonald. It is what it is, but I mean, at best it's irritating, but it can be disheartening and discouraging, which I suppose is the idea in many ways, but yeah, I noticed you had that you got the same treatment on our last interview.
Yeah, but nothing's happened lately, so I don't know what's happening, whether they've backed off or fallen asleep, or I don't know. It's hard to tell. I know that Amazon banned Kevin McDonald's books. That kind of came out of the blue. It's just hard. It's hard to figure. There seems to be no rational plan here. I had a book on Kindle called Jewish Nazis, and suddenly that got banned. Well, Jewish Nazis is a review of a Hollywood film called The Believer, which is about a Jewish Nazi. So I had my webmaster wrote to Amazon and said, well, wait a minute, you're selling the DVD of the movie. Why are you banning the review of the movie? Never got a response, but then suddenly it's back up again. So it goes down, it goes up. It's just hard. It's hard to tell what's going on.
It is really hard to figure it out because, as I say, I had a spate of videos, probably 6 or 8 on the bounce, emails from YouTube about hate speech and all that sort of stuff. And then the interview you did, that got sort of restrictions on your channel, but they suddenly allowed that video to be aired on my channel. I mean, I'm no tech wizard, but I have noticed, since that succession of videos, that traffic to my channel has slowed. I don't know. People have talked to me about algorithms and shadow banning. I mean, I just don't know. I can only speculate like yourself,
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, in the short time we've got left, if you're cool with it, I wanted to talk to you about your greatest ally there over in the Middle East and the Golan Heights. I mean, what part of his own slogan, America First, does Donald Trump not understand? I mean, he seems to be, he really is the gift that keeps on giving if you're a Zionist. I mean, Adelson or whatever certainly gets his money's worth with Trump,
Yeah, well, the Golan Heights thing took place shortly before the Mueller investigation stopped. I think a day or two later, Mueller said there was no evidence of collusion. That was an attempt on the part of the deep state to basically stop Donald Trump. It may have worked. And that's maybe why they let go, because one of the main issues there was peace with Russia. Trump had said during the campaign that he was going to resolve differences with Russia. He was going to end the hostility. And this collusion accusation, in effect, prevented him from making any overtures toward Russia. So it may have succeeded. Maybe the people now feel that they have so alienated Russia that Trump cannot patch that up. It's irreparable damage. And that's what happened. But that's only one aspect of it. Okay, the other aspect is Israel. What you had at that moment in time with the Golan Heights thing is the latest of a succession of concessions that Donald Trump made to the Jews, to the Israel lobby, to get them on board. Because it seemed clear to me that when the deep state decided to get rid of him, he turned to the Jews as his ally to protect them. And not just the Jews, there were the most extreme Likudniks in Israel. These are the people he got on his side. And what you saw at this point with the Golan Heights thing is basically, it was just a semantic change. Nothing has changed on the ground. The State Department changed a few words that enraged the entire world, pretty much, especially the Arabic world. But what you had was a spectacle of two drowning men in the middle of the ocean, clinging to each other. Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump, both threatened with getting removed from office, holding on to each other as the only insurance that keeps them in office. Whether that changes now with Mueller, I doubt it. I mean, nobody's going to let up simply because Mueller stopped. But I think that's the situation. What Netanyahu has done here is basically turn AIPAC into a Republican Party operation. The Democrats are now going to boycott AIPAC. This is a big loss for the Jews because their whole argument was that support for Israel had to be a bipartisan issue. Well, it's no longer bipartisan. The Netanyahu, his attacks, first of all, his attack on Obama back then, his siding with Trump has basically alienated the entire Democratic Party. And so now it's not bipartisan anymore. So that's too bad. Too bad for them. But I mean, I think it's a gain for everyone else.
It certainly is a gain for everyone else. And as you say, it's a massive change. AIPAC has thrived off bipartisan support. And it really does seem to me. I mean, not only the Trump situation, but when you have this cultural Marxist, social justice warrior stuff being, pushed so heavily in the universities, and then you have Israel persecuting the Palestinians so aggressively and so horribly, it's kind of hard to garner support among the Democratic electorate base when you've got this dichotomy of going on. I mean, it's really hard for them to square that circle. And as you say, I mean, it looks like we're going forward with, the Israeli lobby and AIPAC. They just won't be able to rely on bipartisan support that they've enjoyed, unequivocally pretty much up until now,
No. I think even the Jews are starting to back away from Israel. Israel did not enjoy widespread Jewish support in America until 1967. up until 1967, Jews were left wing, they were socialists, and their big cause was the civil rights movement. Because of what happened in '67, the Black Jewish Alliance broke down. The Black Jewish Alliance that had been in existence for about 70 years, where the Jews were trying to turn the blacks into the avant-garde of the revolution, into proxy warriors. The civil rights movement was the culmination of that, and then it just broke down. And as a result, the Jews switched their allegiance to Israel. They stopped supporting the civil rights movement. They were alienated from the blacks. This is when Norman Podhoretz wrote his article, My Negro Problem and Ours. And as a result, they switched. So I'm saying it can happen again. And I think it is happening. First, among the left-wing Jews, if you want to call them the J Street Jews that supported the nuclear agreement. But I think Israel, because of their actions, because of the policies that have been pursued by Netanyahu, it's impossible to defend anymore. You know, I mean, you just can't. The United Nations just said that what happened in May was a war crime. You know, the Palestinians were marching toward the wall. They posed no threat, and the Israeli snipers were shooting them in cold blood, killing them in cold blood, shooting them in the back, shooting women and children, shooting reporters. This is indefensible behavior. And I think the Jews are just starting to back away from it. They can't support Israel anymore.
No, exactly. I totally agree. And, you know, in response to that and in response to Trump on the left, the AIPAC and the Israeli lobbies have been attempting to infiltrate the schools. I don't know where you've seen it on the AIPAC website, where they've got high school training opportunities. Al Jazeera, they did a wonderful undercover video sting revealing, you know, Israeli foreign agents aggressively infiltrating the college campuses with anti-BDS, pro-Zionist narrative propaganda. Literally, Israeli spies all over the US, in the universities, very slick, very well funded, very well connected with the media, like you'd expect. And actually, one of the employees of AIPAC who was boasting while she was being secretly filmed, unbeknownst to her, of course, about their connections in the media and about their tactics about demonizing any critics as anti-Semitic. I don't know where you've seen that Al Jazeera video, have you?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. But by the same token, Representative Omar Ilhan from Minnesota made a comment about Benjamins and kind of talk about AIPAC is controlling the Congress. And there was a big uproar, but she's still there. She's still standing up to them. So I think they're losing their power.
They are losing their power. And just at the mere mention of her, you know, of AIPAC, the whole Congress totally freaked out. And, you know, Pence, of course, the Zionist, you know, it's those who engage in anti-Semitic tropes should not just be denounced. They should face consequences. Trump calling for a resignation of course, even before that, you had Lee Zeldin. There was already a bill in the House Resolution 72 rejecting anti-Israel and anti-Semitic hatred in the US and around the whole world. So they've really, and this guy, David Kustoff, referred to the synagogue shooting. So they've really been trying to use this synagogues issue and anything remotely critical of Israel to, you know, condemn and silence any criticism of Jews.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to work anymore.
No,
I don't think it's going to happen. We've reached, you know, I remember when Trump issued that statement that the State Department was now going to do everything within its power to stop anti-Semitism, and I thought, look, it's not against the law here. It's different in different countries. I mean, unfortunately, in England, Jez Turner went to jail because some Jew didn't like what he said. So it's illegal to criticize Jews in certain countries. And that's going to cause a reaction, but it's not illegal here. There's no legal remedy against what they call anti-Semitism. We have never erected hate crimes legislation here. So it's just not going to happen. And it's not going to, they're not going to be able to impose it now. If they couldn't do it in the past, when everybody was kind of stealthily, or when everybody's pretty sympathetic to the idea, well, no, people are not sympathetic anymore. Israel's behavior has ended that. They have lost the sympathy that they had, and it's going to go backwards now. Now, the question is, how is it going to go backwards? Is it going to go backward peacefully, or is it going to go backwards violently? I have all sorts of indication of violence on the horizon, okay, because of the situation. The publisher, the Slovakian publisher of the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, called me, and he's worried now because Slovakia just passed the international standards on anti-Semitism. I mean, foolishly, I don't know why they did this, but basically now, anytime you criticize Israel, it could be a crime if somebody doesn't like you. So he doesn't know. We signed a contract for the book, and now this is passed in the meantime, and now he doesn't know whether he's going to be thrown in jail for publishing my book. This is an intolerable situation. It's going to backfire. It's going to create the very thing that they want to prevent. And maybe that's the reason behind it. There's also people who think that, but I mean, it's just becoming more and more intolerable.
It is becoming more and more intolerable, and it does get difficult to figure out. I mean, exactly what is going on. I mean, you've used the analogy of the tennis player coming to the net.
Yeah, there's a desperation here. Now, the other side of the coin here is that the SPLC is now in big trouble, it seems. The Southern Poverty Law Center was one of the major thought cops in the United States of America, right up there with the ADL, Jewish organization. They used the whole civil rights movement as a cover for basically Jewish thought cops. And 10 years ago, when the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, I was publishing articles in that would end up in the book. The book came out in 2009, so it's 10 years ago that the book has been out. They tried to destroy me by calling me a hate group and all the other things that they do. They dragged a whole bunch of Catholics together to make it look as if there's this big Catholic movement. Those people had nothing to do with me. It was all to get at me. None of those people, first of all, most of them are scared to death to talk about the Jews anyway. So then they're lumped with me to kind of create a movement of this big movement here. I'm a hate group, all this other type of stuff. Well, they failed. So I'm selling more copies of the book now of the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit than I've ever sold before. And now the SPLC is in trouble. Morris Dees got kicked out by Cohen, and now Cohen has resigned. And now I don't know what's coming down. They've lost lawsuits. People got tired of being demonized because somehow they didn't like the SPLC doesn't like you, and so they call you a hate group. They overplayed their hand, and now the reaction is setting in.
Yeah, they have overplayed and overreached, and I mean their own aggression exposes them. And as you say, it's like the more you try and oppress something, the more the human spirit reacts to it, and so it results in your book selling more now than it was probably, as you say, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a lot more, all over the world. So, what can I say? It's the way history works, I guess. God allows evil for a certain point, and then suddenly they're swept away. The last time I looked, he was like a towering cedar in Lebanon. And then I walked back and he wasn't there. He disappeared. Morris Dees is gone.
All right. Where do you want to take it, Mike? I'll just give you the floor. You were talking earlier about your experience in Africa.
Yeah, I basically there's countries of East Africa banned used clothing. Okay, they got together, they understood the threat that it posed to the economy, they banned it, and as soon as they did it, some rag picker from New Jersey complained, and the Treasury Department put sanctions on all of these East African countries. This is wearing out. Okay, we now have, I think the figure is like 40% of the world's population is living in countries under sanction by the United States, by the Treasury Department. Everybody's getting tired of that too. Okay. And again, this is the way history moves. So what you're doing here, I don't know whether Mr. Mnuchin who's in charge of the Treasury, a Jewish guy from Wall Street, whether he understands what he's doing, but basically he's forcing the world to give up the dollar as the world's currency. If the dollar means we're going to get sanctioned, let's look for options other than the dollar. If the dollar goes as the world reserve currency, that's the end of the American empire. It's that simple. I don't care how many battleships this country has. If the dollar goes, that's the end. So they're pushing in that direction. You'd think somebody would be smart enough to understand the implications, but evidently not. They're blinded by their lust for power.
Yeah, again, it's like their aggression is their undoing in many ways. I mean, the BRICS countries have been threatening this type of getting out of the dollar for some time now.
Well, yeah, the sanctions on Iran have forced countries like India to now deal with other currencies. Russia and China are basically pushing in this direction. If Mnuchin and Trump and these people just keep it up, they will wake up one day and realize that they pushed it so far that they broke it. Aren't there any adults left in the room in Washington? Evidently not. We're dealing with the likes of thugs like Mike Pompeo and John Bolton. And part of the problem here is that even this whole confrontation over Venezuela, for example, I mean, it's a terrible situation. Maduro is a thug. He's killing his own people. He's starving his country to death. And now, because of the way you bungled the entire world situation, I'm talking about the American State Department, they bungled it in the Middle East. We never should have gotten involved in the Middle East. And now you've got Russia in Venezuela again, which is right in your backyard. I mean, this is really stupid, And the tragedy for the Venezuelan people is that Maduro does deserve to go. But the United States is making the situation worse because of their stupid, heavy-handed policies.
As usual. I mean,
Yeah.
can you see things escalating in any way? Like some predict that we could end up in a World War III situation.
Everywhere I look, I can see possibilities for escalation. I'm just praying that we have a peaceful transition away from the American empire. The best scenario would be like the end of the Soviet Union transposed to the American empire, without the looting, without the American Jewish looting that took place right after under Boris Yeltsin, thanks to people like Jeffrey Sachs. Without that, but let's have a peaceful transition to a more stable world. That's my prayer.
Well, that's a good prayer. And on that note, Mike, we'll wrap it up. As I say, apologies earlier for the mix-up. We've had a shorter space of time to talk, but it's great to have you on again. I'll let you know when Andrew Joyce, because we were going to do a three-way thing. Andrew himself, you mentioned Jess Turner, but Andrew, I'm pretty sure he was arrested as well. He was arrested, and the most difficult thing for him was to get around the terrorist
This is shameless. This is shameless. It's got to stop. This is not what we believe in.
No.
It's not what England believes in. This was the place that was famous for Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, and now we got people thrown in jail for saying things that everybody knows is true. This has got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's an historian. He's got a PhD in history, and he was arrested basically, presumably, because some of the articles he was writing about revealing facts about Jews, essentially. But it's staggering, it really is. Anyway, Mike, it was great to have you on again, and we'll do it again soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
All right, God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So there goes Mike. It's always a pleasure to have Mike on, and it's strange to think that it's over 3 years since I first interviewed him, and I'm really glad to see the kind of success that he's having recently. His YouTube channel is really grown over the last sort of couple of months, and his message and about Logos and just his experience and wealth of knowledge is being spread, and I'm glad to say.
He very kindly sent me a signed copy of the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit as well. Anyway, apologies for the mix-up earlier in the at the show, because we have gone forward here. In America, the clocks have gone forward an hour. In the UK, we haven't gone forward yet. So instead of starting my show at 9 o'clock, I'm supposed to start it at 8. At 8:15, I realized the mistake I made. So I'm probably going to have to edit the video a little bit, because just because of the mix-up and some of the early difficulties in that interview. And it's going to be it's a shorter interview than it otherwise would have been. But anyway, thank you for listening. I'm Paul Stevenson. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, and share the videos out. I wonder, will this video have the usual restrictions on it? As I said earlier, Mike, the last interview I did with him, Mike had it censored on his channel. Limited features. It's not a strike, but it's a limited features. You can't like and share and all that sort of stuff, as I mentioned. But yeah, thank you for listening. I will be back live. Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm live Thursdays at 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., 4:05 Eastern Standard Time.